Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about narrative sommeliers. All right, so part of this is going to be a discussion of intellectual property expansion that's happening on Dungeons and Dragons. I'm convinced that there is, in my humble opinion, there is intellectual property expansion that is happening on Dungeons and Dragons. And what is happening on it? What is happening for narrative, for human narrative? It has never occurred and is fully misunderstood. It's understood by a portion of the creatives in Wizards of the Coast. In my humble opinion, that's correct. It is understood by literally zero of the Harvard and Yale educated suits at Hasbro and the companies that are connecting these worlds with Dungeons and Dragons. But there's something special that's happening. And I'm aware. I am self-aware, right? So people in the comments are like, Scott, Lego's connected to Dungeons and Dragons. How silly, right? And what I'm telling you is you can seal your flapping maw because you don't know what you're talking about and you don't know the stakes. And I'm going to tell them to you, okay? Why do I care about this? Story matters. Wake up. Gary Gygax changed how stories are told in 1974, right? Fundamentally, for all humans going forward, and the most valuable stories in the world are happening in Dungeons & Dragons. You don't accept it, you don't know it, that's fine. It doesn't change the reality of it, in my humble opinion, right? So he changed the story forever, and now what's happening is the catalyst he put into the world that does not leave a single human story untouched is surging forward, okay? And is continuing to change things. And I think what's happening on Dungeons & Dragons right now is there are no laws that cover canon, official, that cover from a narrative perspective, connectedness, officialness, and canon. There are no laws, right? I can tell you right now, I'm following a Penguin Books case that's happening right now, and they are dealing with narrative subjects that are massively more simple than what we're talking about, and they don't have the language, the concepts, the structures, and this huge, lawsuit has been delayed literally while the law catches up. And everything I'm talking about is going to land, I'm 100% convinced, all this is going to land in the Supreme Court 2 decades from now. And what I'm doing right now, right, is making sure that Dungeon Masters and Dragon players are ready and get what we deserve and get everything we were sold in the box, right? In my humble opinion, if you connect any product to Dungeons & Dragons, every single world that your product line is connected to permissions every single Dungeon Master and every single Dragon player to tell stories in the world you just connected it to. And I'm fundamentally convinced that the suits at Hasbro and the suits at all these other companies don't know what they've done and don't know what they're doing. They're flying forward with the momentum of capitalism and being shockingly ignorant about what they're actually putting in the box. I think what's being put in the box, I think in every Lego box today, right? Because D&D has been officially connected to Dungeons & Dragons, because Lego has been officially connected to Dungeons & Dragons, it tripled the value of every single Lego set because every Lego set is now a Dungeons & Dragons supplemental product. That's my humble opinion, right? And you're like, Scott, I'm going to make a joke and say, so does that mean SpongeBob is connected to Dungeons & Dragons? And they, people are laughing, and I'm telling you, this is no laughing matter. You know why? Because jobs are on the line. Literally thousands of them. Did you just watch House of the Dragon? Did you just watch Lord of the Rings? Did you realize that canon is outrageously important and that massive conversations erupted on Twitter and every other social media platform, and that those conversations are going to have ramifications on literally thousands of jobs, and that the people who work those jobs have medical benefits connected to them, and that literally you saying Lord of the Rings is trash may here's the connector, right? Oh, Lord of the Rings is trash, nobody should watch it, right? Okay, you said that, right? They shut it down, and the 2,000 people it employed, one of them lose benefits. Oh, and their wife can't get the medicine they need. They died. And you're like, it's not really that. It's that. It is. Guess what? Story is the new American steel. There are real jobs on the line, billions of dollars on the line, and real lives on the line. This is real. And that's my point. Is you're like, D&D is connected to SpongeBob. Yes. And there is real money at stake here. This is real. Like, and you're like, oh, is story important? America don't make anything, nothing tangible in this world is worth 1/10 as much as story now. Story is the currency of the world. Do you understand that? Do you understand that every politician in the world right now is carefully crafting a narrative, and that there are no more shared facts, right? And that it's all story now. Story matters, right? So there is a lot on the line to determine if, right? It's non-debatable. Like, SpongeBob is connected to Dungeons & Dragons at this point. Dungeons & Dragons is connecting to, they've already announced on both sides, Dungeons & Dragons is connected to Lego, Lego's connected to Dungeons & Dragons. It's not debatable that it's connected. Is it official? Is it canon? We can have that debate, right? You think there's nothing at stake. I'm telling you, there's a lot at stake. Far more than you think, okay? So here's the question. And the reason we're talking today is I had somebody roll up in the comments and they're like, Scott, you talked about Velma and D&D. And what a laughable joke. And they're like, I can do that too. Dungeons & Dragons is connected to StarCraft, and StarCraft is connected to what was it? You know what? Let me hold on. Dungeons & Dragons is connected to Doctor Who, and Doctor Who is connected to SpongeBob. See how ridiculous your point is, right? And the thing is, I'm like, no, I'm not wrong, and I'm not being ridiculous. You're a bad narrative. You are not a narrative sommelier. You're a repugnant fool who doesn't understand IP pairing, intellectual property pairing. All right, so let's get into it. What is intellectual property pairing? It's a brand new discipline. It has never existed before, right? So the reality is, your player characters meeting Doctor Who and them all going to, where does SpongeBob live? Some cove, and them all going to the Krabby Patty, right? That's a bad story. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and it tells your players that you're not taking any of this serious, right? But Velma connected to Dungeons & Dragons, that's a real question, right? Velma's a very interesting, complex character. There's a lot riding on what happens with Velma, right? One, she's a strong female protagonist. That's not a small issue today, right? There was a period where we were short on strong female protagonists. That period has passed. We got a lot of them now, right? And so now, what are they representing, right? So Galadriel, right? Strong female protagonist, absolutely horrifically bad representation. Velma is not bad representation. She's very good representation for feminism and for what women can do, what they should do, right? We're kind of past the discussion of what they can do. Everybody knows they can do everything now. What should they do? That's an interesting question. Should they do everything men did because they want to make parity? Or can women say, you know what? We don't really want there to be an equal number of trash men and trash women. Women aren't that interested in putting trash in trucks, right? Is that okay? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying we've reached a point where we've gone past the question of what women can do, and we're now at the question of what women should do, right? So when Velma comes into Dungeons & Dragons, there's a very legit, real question. Is she going to go to Campbell? She loves books. Is she going to go to Candlekeep, or is she going to go to Strixhaven, right? That's a real, very interesting question, right? You slapping together, your player characters with Doctor Who, and they all go to the Krabby Patty is not. It means you're ignorant and you don't actually understand intellectual property pairing, right? And this is a brand new discipline that has just arrived. It is just emerged, right? And just like we've had sommeliers who pair wine with food, and they go to 4-year schools to learn how to do it, we're 20, 30, 40 years away from narrative sommeliers who will say, this intellectual property pairs with this intellectual property, and this is the way we proceed with intellectual property pairing, right? Not a joke, quite real, brand new discipline, jobs on the line, billions on the line, money on the line. This is real. This isn't a joke, and you've had your ha-ha-has, and you all get to laugh at me, but 5 years from now, you're going to be like, Garibay was on this 5 years. And 5 years from now, I will be on something else that you don't understand, building the language for it and dragging you to it. Okay? All that is my humble opinion. I'm ready to hear yours. Do you think you can become a sound, skilled narrative sommelier and begin the actual work of connecting intellectual properties that have been connected in a way that is winsome and fun and joyful and beneficial to everyone who experiences the intellectual property pairing? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. All that is my humble opinion. I'm eager to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.